Let's do ancient Egypt. The story of ancient Egypt is mostly the story of the Nile River. The Nile was, and to some extent still is, the source of life in Egypt. It provided water for crops, for drinking, and for keeping the kingdom prosperous. The Egyptians believed that the Nile's annual floods were a gift from the gods, and they were right. Egyptians built huge temples to their gods. Some were built as pyramids, like the ones at Giza. Other temples were built with stone blocks, sometimes up to 30 feet tall, with perfectly smooth surfaces. Egyptians also built obelisks to honor the gods. Obelisks are tall, four-sided monuments that end in a pyramid shape at the top. They're kind of like giant arrowheads pointing up to the sky. Those floods helped make their crops the most productive in the world. After Alexander's death, his friend Ptolemy I became the ruler of Egypt. He started a new dynasty, the Ptolemaic kingdom. Under the Ptolemies, Egypt became part of the Greek world. They built Greek-style temples, and they encouraged people to learn Greek. In 30 BC, Egypt was conquered by Rome. It became a province of the Roman Empire and the capital of the Roman Empire. It was called Alexandria. Along the Nile's banks, people settled and built the first Egyptian cities. And by 3100 BC, they had united the upper and lower parts of Egypt into one kingdom. But then they broke into smaller kingdoms called dynasties. Each dynasty was ruled by a pharaoh or king who was considered a god on earth. You may have heard of Khufu, Ramses, Akhenaten, Tut. They were all pharaohs. One of the greatest pyramids was built as a tomb for Pharaoh. Khufu, it took 20,000 workers 20 years to build it. At its base, it was 756 feet long and 756 feet wide. And it was 481 feet tall, almost as tall as a 50-story building. The largest of the Egyptian pyramids is the Great Pyramid of Giza. It's also one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. Most pharaohs weren't buried in pyramids, though. Pyramids were expensive and time-consuming to build. Instead, most pharaohs were buried in elaborate tombs deep under the ground. Egyptians believed that when you died, your soul went on a journey to the afterlife. It had to pass through 12 gates, each guarded by a god. If the deceased person had done good things during their life, they would be let through. Otherwise, they would be kept from entering the afterlife. To help the pharaoh's soul pass through the gates, they would bury the pharaoh with things they would need on their journey, like food, clothes, chariots, even servants. Some pharaohs were buried with as much as 20 tons of treasure. Egyptians also mummified their dead, which means they dried out the body so it wouldn't decay. Mummies were often wrapped in bandages and buried with their valuables. Mummification was expensive, so most people couldn't afford it. Only the rich could. The ancient Egyptians worshipped many gods, including Ra, the sun god, Osiris, the god of the underworld, and Anubis, the god who led souls to the underworld. For centuries, the Egyptian kingdoms were prosperous and powerful, but eventually outside invaders began to take over Egypt. In 332 BC, Alexander the Great conquered Egypt. Thanks for watching.